One of the many things I am not good at is, for example, holding a small part and my measuring thing at the same time, of course, to take measurements. When the part is held in the machine, of course, it is way easier. But that is of course not always the case. This part I don't have to machine it, but if I want to take measurements to copy it, for me it becomes a challenge. So today's project is to make some kind of simple little stand to hold this thing in place, and then I have my both hands, one to hold the part I have to measure, and the other one, of course, to turn this hand wheel thingy here. And because it's a tool that I'm not gonna use very much, because most of the time I use my calipers to take measurements, it's much easier. Right, more or less the idea is a base plate, something like this. Straight, of course, more or less. Okay. And then here a stem and a clamp, and we'll see. To start with, I have this beautiful little piece of cut-off steel, and let's go for it. First I will square it up here in the shaper. No specific dimensions, we don't care. Just some kind of cleanup, and we'll see what happens. And to protect the vice jaws, I will put some belts and belts in here. It is making weird noises. It's the dovetail here that's touching the workpiece. That's not good. This is of course a kind of thing that can happen if you want to cut corners and then you think it's a quick and easy little project, and then this happens. Because I need to turn my vise, I installed the swivel base. That of course is made for it, but I lose here almost, I think, 40 millimeters in height, which means my top slide is very high, and here at the bottom you can see the dovetail. My cutting tool is really short here. But it's still touching. Let's find another setup. I think I'm gonna cheat a bit. I installed my part here in the milling machine, and as you can see, the vertical head has disappeared. Because I wanted to install, for example, this beautiful viewer gift cutter. And I didn't have the right tools to do so, and I had to make a drawbar. Now there's no video because after all this is just a piece of threaded rod, and I made a little washer for this thing. And of course the drawbar goes in here, and then we have the collet that goes in here. And my beautiful cutter ready for action. Wood. Normally, when you start squaring up a part, the best way to do it is of course to start with the biggest surfaces. This one or of course on the other side. So install your part this way in the vise on parallels, of course. Make this surface nice and clean. And then we rotate 90 degrees and do one of the four other sides, and then it is of course the second biggest surface. And why is this? Because of course this surface will touch as much as possible on the fixed jowl of the vise. Make sure it will be square. But this time I didn't. I first cut one side and then the other side, and now I only know these two sides are parallel, not square with this surface. But I did it because of this is a rough cut out piece, and this side is also rough cut, and one of the other sides here was also rough cut, and this side there was the scale, this rolling rounded thing from the factory, so nothing straight, nothing square. And now I have two nice surfaces to pinch on, which means it will not be perfectly square, but in this case we don't care. 160 strokes a minute gives a cutting speed of 24 meters a minute. Exactly what we need. On this surface I did a roughing pass and a cleanup pass, a finishing pass, and let's have a closer look. I will turn a little bit in the light and I hope you will see a little bit better. The tool started here and the feed was in this direction, and here when I turn a little bit in the light you can see a little line. This is of course where the tool falls back on the surface on the backstroke, and to prevent it from happening I slowed down a little bit and it made a line here, and I slowed down a little bit more and it made a line here, and then I slowed down a little bit more, and in this surface no line anymore. But if I hold my part this way, you can see that the finish, except of course this line here, the finish here is very nice, and the more I slow down, the more the finish is crap. So cutting speed, it is important. And that's why I think it's really nice to have this VFD on the shaper, so you can fine-tune the cutting speed. Really handy. Right, enough blah blah. Now that I finished the 6 sides here of my little part, and I don't want to cut myself on these sharp corners, I will give them a touch of round tool. No chatter marks, but not a good finish. The trick is now cutting fluid, slow down machine. Almost. Chatter marks, slow down even more. That will do. One corner is rounded, and this is also where the swivel base comes in very handy. All I have to do is to rotate, set it here at 90, good. And this is the result. These little lines here in the corners, they are in the corners. Now, this thing I just wiped it off with a rag. I didn't even deburr, nothing at all. I didn't touch it. And this line also very good. There's a tiny bit of chatter marks here, but almost nothing. The only corner that failed a bit is this one. I don't know if it's visible on camera. And I suppose what happened is that my little vise wasn't really square, set at 0 or 90. So I suppose my part was a little bit this way when I started cutting, because this corner is perfect and this one is a little bit too deep. When I make things, it happens sometimes that I cut corners, and then at the end, when the part is finished, of course, what's left? All the corners. But maybe I can use this to install it on my base plate. And then of course, here will come the micrometer with a kind of clamp or something. That could work. Right, let's clean it up a bit. My first idea was to just clean it up a little bit on the belt sander, but as you can see, there is a big scratch in this surface here, and also there's a bow in the surface, and the other side is rounded, and there is a completely useless part of a hole in here. So I will cut off this piece here, clean up the 3 faces, and of course the 2 biggest on the shaper. I just machined 5 surfaces here on this thing, except the bottom surface. And it is of course because I have to drill 2 holes and tap metric 4 that I will do here on the milling machine, so I can as well mill the bottom surface too. It spares me a setup. Need bigger drill bit. I think that could work. All it needs now is some kind of clamp and of course a piece of threaded rod to clamp it, to screw it down, and on this threaded rod it needs a knob. Because I don't want to make this video too long, I already squared up this little block without filming it. 5 sides, so 1 more to go. Because on this side I have to make a little bit of special feature. Because it's the clamp that comes on this part, I'm gonna make a cutout. Now I drawed it upside down because that's of course how it's gonna mount it in the machine. So make a cutout so that when it's installed it will prevent it from spinning. That's why I will leave these 2 little tabs here over to the milling machine. Of course I could also do this on the shaper, no problem at all. But using the decal is also great fun, so let's use this one. I have a 9.5 millimeter diameter little cutter in here, and it is exactly what I need to make a slot 10 millimeters deep, and let's go for it. And here it is. But I think I did something stupid. When I made this cut here, I thought it was a good idea. And indeed it is, because now this thing fits and it doesn't spin. That's good. But what I didn't think about is of course the thickness of the micrometer itself that has to come between here. That's not gonna work, and that is why I made a new one, but this time in brass and a little bit more than a half a circle. And this thing fits very nice, it even slides off. Just a second, I'll be back. As you can see, this could work very well. All it needs is a knob here on top. And I already started making one, but I think it will be too small. Plus the colors of brass on brass, that's not gonna look good. I think it will look better in steel. And by the way, this thing I made out of something that looked like this. So last thing to do to finish this project, making a knob out of railroad steel. And here's my little knob. And I don't think I showed you, so just to be sure, of course in this part I also made the groove that fits on here to prevent the thing from spinning. But at least here I left some free space. Let's do a little bit of assembly. And now I know, without holding it, that this part is 1243. Wow. Now, as I said in the beginning of the video, I don't think I'm gonna use this thing much. But the day I need it, I have it.